Hello, everyone. Welcome into another episode of the Takecast. I'm Davis Mattek, joined today by my friend, but you know him well, the oldest man to draft 150 Best Ball Mania teams on stream, Mr. Neil Orfield. I really just wanted to kind of continue this theme of having people who've won a Millionaire Maker on the show. Where I'm on a good run right now of people who've played a lot of very successful DFS. It's not always what the show is. Who knows? Maybe Cam Scadaboo will be on the show soon. Maybe Vitalik will be on the. Who knows who's going to be on the show next week? But Neil, thank you for giving me an hour of your time, man.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. I'm racking my brain. Who have you had on that's one? I know Dinkmeyer was on here, and I know he's won a Million Maker. Has Leone? I watched the Leone episode recently. I guess I don't even know if Leone has. I know he's won a lot.
That's a good question. I actually don't know. But I know that Doubt has won a Millie Maker a
Okay, I
couple
watched that
times.
one.
Let's see who else has won a Millie Maker. Soccer Dave has definitely not won a Millie Maker. This I might has Wiggins ever won $1 million? Has Brick ever won a Millie Maker? Brick has maybe won like a
Brick has not.
444 or something. Oh,
Yeah,
Brick has not.
I
Okay.
know Brick has not because he yeah, I think he's a little bit salty about it because he's won so much, but just does not win the Million Maker.
Well, that's sad for him. So I should have Nerdy Tenor on soon. I should have Dan on because he very unassuming man to be like 10th on the Roto Grinders leaderboard.
Yeah.
I don't think you would know. I think you'd see him kind of quietly suggesting players to me and Brick while Brick and I are arguing about politics on the Sim stream, and you would definitely not think that. So let's just start here, Neil. How did you find out about DFS? Were you a poker guy? Were you a college professor whose students was playing on FanDuel? What was your DFS origin story?
Believe it or not, when I started playing I guess it was like 30 when I started playing. So I guess I could have been a college professor. But no, I was not a college professor. I played a little bit of poker, pretty casually. I was on Full Tilt. I don't know if I was playing up until Black Friday. I think I was probably done before Black Friday came. But I was never that good. Like I would win for like, a couple nights and then lose it all real quick when I just like got on tilt. No, I think like I was always obsessed with fantasy sports. So I think I just kind of discovered it through my various fantasy sports exploits. I'm sure friends told me about it because I was so obsessed with fantasy sports. I don't really remember, but I started playing in 2000. Started playing seriously in 2013. I think I knew about it prior to that. I started playing because my brother was a Timberwolves fan, and I was not yet at the time. And he kept on inviting me over to watch the Timberwolves, and I was like, I don't really care about basketball at the time, like which is I
Right.
was obsessed with basketball growing up, but like went through a period where I didn't know the players, didn't really pay attention. My brother was like, "We should do this," and I was like, "I guess I'll do this daily fantasy thing to give me something to care about." So I know the reason I started playing, at least playing more often. I actually have according to my Roto tracker, my first entry was in 2011. But yeah, I don't know the answer. I guess is the answer to that question. I don't remember how I learned about DFS. I just remember why I started playing.
That is 2011 is very early. 2011 is
Yeah,
that is like it's hard to be earlier to some because I think that was literally when FanDuel started. If I remember Nigel Eccles' origin story, I think 2011 was as early as it was public facing. So not only are you one of the only graybeards still in the streets, you were also one of the very first. I mean, think about all the changes that have happened in the world as a whole since 2011.
a lot. A lot has changed since 2011. Yeah, no, it's funny because it doesn't. When I think about what was going on in my life in 2011, like I was living here in Minnesota. It wasn't like pre moving back to Minnesota time. So it doesn't feel like that long ago. But yeah, it's 14 years now.
So was NBA like the main thing that you liked? Like was it like one of those things where you open it up and you were like, "Oh, this is actually really easy because I know this sixth guy who comes off the bench for the
No,
Wolves is like the nuts." No, it
not
wasn't
not
like
at all.
that.
No, it was not. I literally it was just an entertainment product for me. I had no plans of like being really good at it. At like when I started, I was just like, all right, I want something to cheer for while I'm watching the Timberwolves with my brother. So I remember the first night I played. I remember Lance Stevenson was like the guy you needed. He might have been opening night in 2013. I don't remember exactly. Oh, and that's I say my first entry in 2011. When I first like really started playing was 2013. And I believe Lance Stevenson was a guy that you needed on that night, but I didn't know who that was. Like it was literally like I don't know these players. I actually it all started with Roto Grinders reading. I don't know if you know Noto from Roto
Oh
Grinders.
yeah.
Did the daily grind, I think it was called, or the grind down. I don't know,
It
but he would go
it
game
sure
by
was.
game, and I would like my the first couple of years I played. That was my entire process, was reading that article. Maybe there's a little bit more to it, but I would read that article, take notes on the players, like their volatility, or like this guy's safe, this guy's a smash, whatever, like based on just reading that article when I started. Um, yeah, no, I didn't have projections. I was not somebody who like got in early and got in good and won a ton of money early. I
Right.
lost for several years before I really started winning at DFS.
So how did you get good? What was your aha eureka moment? Like did someone tell you about like Basketball Monster and you were like, "Oh, I have the Basketball Monster subscription and now I'm printing money."
Yeah, I mean, so part of it was experience, I think. Just like I played long enough that I sort of understood the game better over time. Knowing the players, I think, helped, because obviously I was pretty obsessed with it. So like I started playing not knowing anything, but then a couple years in, it was like I've been playing this every day. I know all the players, I know their ranges of outcomes, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know that there was necessarily an aha moment. I actually had a couple years of like a lot of Sklansky bucks before I actually won
Oh,
anything. Like
sure.
I had 2 years in a row where it was like 3 point, and I didn't know it at the time, but like looking back through my roto tracker, 3.5% of my lineups in the top 1%, and I lost money. And then the following year, 2.9% in the top 1%, and I lost money. And just like what was not doing all that well. I will say, I think I got better when I discovered Awesemo at the time, Adam, Ship My Money Share, Josh Engelman, like listening to those guys, Fast Eddie Fear, listening to them talk about ball, and they knew ball. I mean, they still know ball better than I do, to be honest, as far as basketball goes. But I think that did help my process, hearing them talk about like the rotations. This is where there might be fragility in the projection because of the rotation. That kind of stuff was pretty helpful for me.
So that's kind of interesting because that was already in an era where the field was getting better at DFS. By
Yeah.
like the time that like there was a period, NBA specifically, like people don't even say this anymore because it's not true, but there used to be a joke like 9 years ago in DFS, like, oh, no one loses at NBA.
Yeah.
Because you really couldn't lose at NBA like 9 years ago. Like you'd have to have been pretty bad. Like you'd have to be really biased or just like not understand projections at all. Like before, there was a time before even the Daily Roto NBA projections existed, like before Dinkmeyer and Leone were doing NBA projections, where it was like Roto Grinders would have them and they'd be good, but not great at the time. Cause that was like before Jamino or anything. Um, this would have been like 2013 to 2016 ish, like before Ethan Gate. I mean, certainly there was
Yep.
a time where if you just were able to download the CSV of projections from Basketball Monster and then run a solve feature, I mean, you were just printing. That
Yeah.
was like if you just did that every night. Like I remember when I was in college, I would just give my friends lineups. Like we'd be sitting down, getting ready to go to dinner or whatever. We'd be waiting like, oh, is Mike Conley playing tonight? If Mike Conley's not playing tonight, we make this swap. Like the Tony Roten era, the tanking 76ers, they were a real gift. I remember a lot of that. But that, Neil, that's actually a very unique story to have gotten good once the field already kind of knew what they were doing, because that's not really the story. A lot of DFS guys, they were either got really good early before anyone knew what they were doing, or
Yep.
kind of rode like the next wave of like, oh, I figured out Sims before everyone else, or I figured out combinatorial ownership before everyone else. So that's kind of
Yeah.
interesting.
And I haven't figured out anything before anybody. Like everything I know, I feel like I learned from better players. Like duping, I feel like Brick kind of taught me about duping in Showdown, was something that I had not given a ton of thought to. I mean, I wasn't a complete idiot. Like I understood like the value of contrarian plays, like not just playing everybody, like the players that everybody else was playing, like the clear benefit of playing guys that nobody else is going to have on your team. Like I kind of understood the game, but I do feel like I've never created a tool of my own. I've always used other people's tools, projections, etc. That's actually something that is on my resolution list this year. I did a resolution thing with some friends, bingo board, and one of my resolutions is to learn how to make my own projections that I might use in some places. But yeah, I guess I have kind of a unique story. The funny thing is, like, when I say like I was putting a lot of lineups into the top 1%, I think I was just jamming probably the chalk. Like, to some extent, I think I was just playing the best plays, and it was still early enough that most of the field was not doing that. Like, so I wasn't using projections. I remember like the projections being there at Roto Grinders and being like, I don't need projections. Like, just playing without them. But I think I was still generally just like playing the plays. I was like, oh, this guy's in an awesome matchup, and expected to have high minutes, and ended up just playing a lot of the chalk at the time. But I probably was doing kind of what you're supposed to do, which is, oh, but I think that this guy's kind of sneaky, just like throwing in that one or two other players that like people were not on, which is kind of what Sims have come back to.
I was gonna say Sims are now like, you actually aren't playing the good plays enough, and we all spent too long being fancy. We all spent too long doing our
Yep.
double bringbacks and shit, and actually all that stuff is terrible. So that's interesting about the resolution thing. Do you think there is value in creating your own projections? Because I would tell someone starting out now, that's like the last thing you should do. You should actually just get way better at simming the field
Yep.
and doing like play-by-play simulations based on like take the ETR projections and then do sims based off of that.
So specifically, I'm thinking about niche sports. So WNBA is what I have in mind that I want to do my own projections for. Because I agree with you. Like, there's no point in me trying to do NFL projections at this point, or NBA projections. They're just so good. But like the sports, or the types of contests that the field is not, that there's not really a big market for yet, where people are not really maybe spending the time that they need to on those projections. I think there might still be value in things like niche sports, like and maybe like tennis, soccer, those kind of sports. But WNBA is the one that I have my eye on, because I think it's a growing market and also somewhat untapped. I might be wrong about that. Maybe there's more out there and it's better than I realize. But I think it's worth at least trying.
Well, for the niche sports, you'll run into a very funny issue, which is basically, unless you are actually getting first in the soccer GPPs or in the WNBA GPPs, like literally not third, not eighth, you will lose like a lot, because the
Yeah.
top prizes are not very big, which means that 10th place in DraftKings payouts is like you're losing money. Like if you're maxing and you don't win, you're like losing money. I've actually been telling Brian and Dan this for a while though, that like if there was some genius kid computer programmer out there who also like watched a lot of soccer or watched a lot of tennis or watched a lot of these things, and they could pick up on things that like just a computer guy could not pick up, like they just wouldn't know. They don't know the
Yeah.
intricacies of the sport or whatever. It would be a print. But those are like, that's like a really, man, I don't even know if that skill set exists in the world for like a great, because there is no sim product for a WNBA GPP.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So that's the reason I'm like, I want to target the more niche sports, and WNBA is what I have in mind. Is just like the products are so good, and the sites are not really incentivized to come out with the sim product for WNBA, because it's not big enough prize pools, not enough interest there. Like, do they really want to spend the time on it? So those are the places that I'm like, well, maybe I can find my own little niche there, making my own. I don't even know, like, I don't plan to make them public to like subscribers, and just like for my own use, just to kind of learn how to. Part of it is just like I want to learn, because I talk about projections all the time on shows and stuff, and like I think I have a generally pretty good idea of like how things work, but like I've never done it myself. I don't have like the same idea as Brick does, or like people who have done their own projections clearly could explain projections better, know exactly what goes into them. I also think there's a lot of value in knowing what goes into a projection, and sometimes I don't know how much like uh, different places are factoring in a potential injury. Like maybe he's going to be limited minutes because of the injury, that kind of stuff. It's partially just a learning exercise for me.
So I've done projections before when I worked for Daily Roto. It's not how projections are done now. The way we did it then was all in a Google sheet. This like labyrinthian 27 tab codes on codes on codes. It would break all the time. If there was any outage of Google, whatever, it was a mess. But it has been very instructive to me. Not that it's like helped me win a ton more, but it does. Like if you know what a fragile projection would even look like if you know, like, oh, this Kareem Hunt, Isaiah Pacheco, or this what's a good this Jericho Sims, Precious Achua projection.
Yep.
I know how fragile this is based on X, Y, or Z. It is pretty helpful just to know what a projection is. Instead it's just like, oh,
Yeah.
this is just how many points this guy gets on average, quote unquote. It's like, it's not really
Right.
it's kind of what a projection is, but not really. And it's helpful to know if you're going to be playing a lot. I mean, I don't know how helpful that stuff is if you're just like a recreational player. Like, it's probably better to think about
Right.
what the field's doing. But if you're playing a lot and you're trying to like gain a real edge, then probably it is pretty valuable. Maybe that is a good New Year's resolution.
Yeah, no, I think it will be valuable for me. I also think like that's kind of my role now as a content creator. Like if I'm trying to teach people how to be good at DFS, I kind of think one of the most important things that I can bring to the table is knowing where projections are fragile because the products are so good. Like the sim products out there are so good. Projections are so good in general, but like there's only so much people creating projections can do with a fragile projection. Like, what are you going to do? You can't give like it's anywhere from this to this. They have to put a number on it, and that number is not going to be great. So I kind of see that as like my value add as a content creator is figuring out where projections are fragile. And I think I'm pretty good at that already, but I think it would be helpful just to have that little bit of extra knowledge of how projections are also made, what is typically going into projections. And it helps that Endgame Syndicate has a course now in how to make projections, which is probably my first stop is going to Endgame Syndicate, watching some of those videos that Brick has done.
It's kind of crazy that Endgame even exists. It's just like almost kind of out of the goodness of their hearts. Like, what is the money? What does the money matter to you, to Cal? Like
Yeah.
it is just very funny. Uh, all right, you won a Millie Maker. Do you what was it? NFL? Was it NBA? What was the sweat?
Yeah, it was NFL. I remember it quite well. Yeah, it was during COVID, and it was a slate where the Sunday night football game was included on the main slate because it got
Oh
flexed.
my
I don't
god.
remember the exact reasoning, but it got flexed due to COVID. The funny thing is going into Sunday night football, so it was Seattle, Arizona was a Sunday night football game. Going into that game, I did not know I had a sweat in the main Millie Maker. I was sweating a wildcat entry. And I very much was like, I need Tyler Lockett to like suck. I want him to be really bad in this game because my biggest sweats were I forget who I had. Maybe I had DeAndre Hopkins against Tyler Lockett, something like that. But I was live to get like third place for 300 or $200,000, something like that was like the best I could do. I think it was blocked from higher in the Wildcat, so I was sweating that. Talking about it with Fantasy Guru Drew, we were he had made a swap onto Tyler Lockett off of somebody else. And we were kind of discussing that contest. And that was when I had my eye on. And then about halftime of that game, so I wasn't even looking at my Millie Maker lineups because none of them looked that high. And like my top lineups didn't really have PMR left. So usually I'm pretty thorough and like looking for, do I have anything good? But apparently I did not on this Sunday night. So halftime of Sunday Night Football, I just had that open, just that contest. Halftime, I was like, I'll see what my other things are doing. And I saw I was, even though I had moved backwards in that contest, because whoever I had was a bust, I was making more money than I had been making before I looked. And I was like, how the hell did that happen? And I pull it up and it was literally like, so I had in the Sunday Night Football game, I had uh, Russ Wilson, um, Tyler Lockett, and DeAndre Hopkins. I think I just had those three. It was just a single stack with a run back. Those three, and like nobody else had more than one player on. Like everybody near the top had Tyler Lockett. Nobody really had anybody else, and I was in like 50th place at halftime. But it was like, holy shit! Like I'm probably the favorite to win this millie. We get to the so the third quarter. I had like a Zoom call or something scheduled, so I didn't watch the third quarter, but like I'm thinking about it the entire time that
Sure.
I have these three players like potentially going to put me in a spot to win a milli. I come back and DeAndre Hopkins has like 95 94 yards, 95 yards or something. And I am like literally just need a 6-yard catch from DeAndre Hopkins to get the 100-yard bonus, and I would be in first place for the millie. And this is like at the very start, might have even been the late third quarter or early fourth quarter. And it goes through the entire fourth quarter. They have the ball several times. He had like 10 receptions too. Like he was targeted so much. Goes the entire fourth quarter. He does not have a reception the entire fourth quarter. And they
Oh my
pull up, and
God.
I think it was Zane Gonzalez. I think was the kicker. Gonna kick a field goal, like a 40-yarder to win the game. So it's the tie game. He kicks it at the buzzer, misses the field goal. So it goes to overtime. And I was like, holy shit. Like I had just given up. I was like devastated. Like we go an entire
Right.
quarter without DeAndre Hopkins catching the ball. So it goes to overtime. And again, and I won't bore you with all of the details, but it goes to literally a minute left. And he still did not have a catch. Finally, with I think under a minute left,
And
DeAndre
you weren't
Hopkins gets the
sweating
9-yard
like
catch.
you weren't sweating like you were not anti-sweating anyone else in the game, because that's kind of
I don't think
crazy.
so. So there was actually, that was one thing that happened in the fourth quarter, was there was like a 60-yard touchdown pass to DK Metcalf. And I was like, I don't know if I want this, because it would put me ahead of all of the lineups that I can see, like within striking distance. But I don't know if there's somebody
Right.
else out there who has like a DK Lockett double stack. But it got called
Right.
back. So there was like a 60-yard touchdown. It got called back on a penalty. Oh, and then there was like, I think Russ threw an interception in like towards the end of overtime, which is the only reason that they had another shot. So I both got very lucky and very unlucky in the sense that like more often than not, he's going to have a reception over that long period of time. But also things kept happening that gave me more opportunities. So Zane Gonzalez missed a field goal. Maybe, no, he made a field goal to go to overtime. This is what happened. He made a field goal to go to overtime. Zane Gonzalez again could have ended the game with a field goal. He missed one in overtime.
In
And then
overtime.
finally, yeah. So then DeAndre Hopkins has the catch, gets me to the millie, and then he made a field goal to end the game. And it was just like, holy shit, I love this kicker. And now I don't remember who the kicker was necessarily. But yeah, it was big time sweat. I was the rare sweat that I brought my wife into, told her like
I
the
was gonna say,
situation.
did you tell your wife like what is the level were you bring other people in?
I like never bring my wife into it. But yeah, this one time I did tell her about it. And we like she was consoling me. Like I was like pacing around the bedroom. We were watching on our bedroom TV. And she was just like consoling me, just like, oh, it's still, you're winning $100,000. Like that's great. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is I was very upset. But yeah, in the end, very, very exciting.
Were you doing content at that time?
No, yeah, that was part of what made it even more exciting for me. Is I kind of always sort of wanted to do content. Like I didn't love my job as a lawyer. I kind of hated it. Like was looking for ways out. There was a period where I
Right.
was like, if I ever win $100,000, I'm just going to quit this job and figure something else out. And then of course I did. And I never did quit that job until nearly a year after I won the Millionaire Maker. But yeah, it was like this, like it gives you credibility, and it's kind of undeserved. Like I think winning the Millionaire Maker is actually super overrated, because like bad lineups win the Millionaire Maker all the time, but it does give you credibility with a large portion of people who watch content. So it was kind of like all right, this is
You
kind of an
you
in for
you
me.
don't you don't market it near enough at all.
I know.
You
we,
you
we've
you
talked
need
about
to
this.
be
I am
you
not
need
the
to be
Liam.
about yeah, you need to be like 10 times more obnoxious about it. Cause like, look, dude, I tell you, if I win the fucking divisional round BR, I'm never shutting up about it. I'm every YouTube video is gonna start with like a highlight clip of the guy who won me pocket change on DraftKings and salary cap DFS,
Yeah,
like it's just it's such a powerful marketing thing for no reason. I'm not
yeah,
any smarter today or tomorrow based on my results. Like let's say you or I we happen to ship something in the conference championship, 2-game slate, like total variance luck fest. I'm the same guy with the
yeah,
same principles, the same intelligence, the same mathematical or non-mathematical abilities as it were. Nothing changes, but for like the algorithm that governs everything around us,
yep.
it's insanely powerful. And you don't use it enough. You really can that be your New Year's resolution? Can we
So
get the $1 million
here's what I've thought
screaming
about.
on the thumbnail?
Yeah. Oh, I mean that's exactly right. So I've thought about it. Like, I don't think I can get myself to like say it every stream like Liam does. Like do the like. And by the way, I wanted to like talk about my past success. Maybe I could like create an intro video where just kind of like in passing show some of my wins. Just like this is all you need. Just like a 30-second intro. Like this is
That's all
why.
you need.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I probably should do something to market it a little bit better. I did put it in like the description of my YouTube page. I think that helped a little bit. But yeah, it's tough for me to want to talk about it all the time, but it would be easier to just like put it in a static place where I don't have to think about it. It's just kind of automatically like, oh yeah, here's some of my wins. So maybe stick around. Maybe you'll learn something. That
I mean,
kind of thing.
Crane does the same goddamn thing. Crane, it's like I guarantee you, there are people subscribed to Legendary Upside who don't know that he won Best Ball
Yeah,
Mania. They
I mean
just
you're probably right,
they got no clue. Which is like,
and that's
not
a
saying,
bigger thing. Like that's yeah.
yeah, yes. I mean, especially in the best ball space, not really sure you can have a greater voice of authority than literally winning what everyone spends all fucking summer talking about. But
Yeah.
the I guess also part of this for me is like, I know that I would be so good at marketing if something like that happened to
I
me,
know
that
you
I'm
would be
like,
too. Yeah.
I'm not, I'm actually, I don't feel, this is such a funny thing about my personality. Obviously, the money would be great. I don't feel jealous about the money at all. Like when I think about Corain winning, I'm like, oh man, think about what all I'd buy with that money. That literally is not, it's my thought is, dude, think about the YouTube
The
video
clout.
I would make. Think about, the intro video. Think about the thumbnail. Think about all that is what and it's just like, well, I'm like, you've already done the hard part. Now this is the part that I would be good at. The part that I could do
It,
is the
yeah.
marketing part, you know?
It also, admittedly, it feels a little bit fraudulent at this point, to overly talk about it because it's a few years old at this point. It's like, well, it was kind of a different landscape at the time. So there is a part of me that's just like, man, most of my success in this space happened before like publicly available sims. So that makes it a little bit, which is something I probably need to get over, like feeling fraudulent about that, because like I still think that I do add value to people who watch my content, that kind of stuff. But I think that's part of the. Whereas if I won a Millie Maker like this week, I would feel less bad being like, all right, I won the Millie Maker. Let's market this shit. But yeah, it is probably
Um,
something I need to get over.
no, I get what you mean, because like I feel the same way. Like I feel that my understanding of football, and probably actually more like my understanding of what people do in games, like of how the mind of someone who plays on DraftKings or on Underdog, like I kind of get what my opponents are doing pretty easily. Not to say
Yeah,
that helps me beat them, because that is it doesn't. I mean, I don't know. What would
I'm sure it
someone check?
helps.
Someone check my Sklansky's. I really don't know, but I feel like that adds value. But that is not as marketable as, I won 100K. I won 1,000,000.
Yeah,
You could too.
yeah.
Which is, it's just and obviously, like, no one likes the overly braggadocious, like, I'm the best, you guys all fucking suck. Like, no one likes that either. So it is a delicate line to walk.
It doesn't work for my personality either. Like I feel like
Sure.
Liam kind of does that well. Like people love him and or like love hate watching Liam to some extent. Like there's he does really well in terms of the viewership on his shows, and he's very much that guy. It's just like brings it up multiple times per show, brings up in his intro all the time. Like, by the way, I've won multiple best ball contests. I won Best Ball Mania, etc., etc. I don't think that that's what people would want from me, I guess. Which maybe again, like you said, there's that kind of little workaround where maybe I should put in the thumbnail, put in a little intro video, something like that, just to like give people some idea that I've had success, and maybe there's more value. Maybe my opinion has some value. But yeah, it's a tough little battle.
People told Pete they liked it better when he lost.
He's funnier, yeah.
Pete went on that crazy run in BR. Um and people were like, Pete, I don't
And
need this,
Pete's so humble about it. He's always just like, oh, that was a long time ago, like a week after his latest win. Yeah, it's the people. You're just funnier when you lose. You're more relatable because everybody loses.
Yeah, I mean, look, that I guess that is kind of the dirty secret, is that in games where all of the money is in, let's call it charitably first through fifth,
Yeah,
you should very reasonably expect to lose for like years at a time. Like very reasonably. Like you have to, unless, I mean, if you're the
yeah,
best in the world, then no. If you have great tools and you have something that is not available on Roto Grinders or the Solver or Stochastic or wherever, then no, that
yeah.
would obviously be absurd.
I mean,
But if you're
if
like
you're 150 maxing, you should win. If you're not winning for years at a time and you're 150 maxing, you're just like throwing money away. But yeah, I mean
yeah,
that's true. Like the vast majority of people every day are losing, and if you're just playing like one entry per day, yeah, you could go years without winning anything. It's tough contests, and I think people want to like, especially like if they do think that like you're sharp and you're losing, then makes them feel better. Like, okay, I'm not dumb because I'm losing. This guy is really sharp and he's losing also. So I do think that there is, yeah, it's there's countering forces there.
that's actually such a great point. People, that is like, I would say that is probably people's preferred content is guy I think is intelligent. He's also losing. That means that it's fine that I'm losing. That probably
Yeah,
is the nicest, coziest, comfiest little pillow that you could find. Yeah.
yeah. I'm good at this game. I'm just everybody loses. That's that's kind of the message you get there. Whereas when you see people win all the time, it's just frustrating. Like, oh God, like can I ever get on this guy's level? He's so sharp and he wins all the time. Maybe I'm just not as sharp as him. It's kind of yeah, I don't know. It's hard to know exactly what people want, but and it probably depends on the audience.
I think it's actually
Yeah,
very easy to know what the audience wants. The thing that is tricky that you have to decide when you are not like Neil, you could go out tomorrow and you could make like 8-minute, this is who you need to have to win. Like, I kind of think everyone could do this. I think like the average
yeah,
person doing this could be like, and if you kind of get lucky, get a couple breaks, you make good thumbnails or whatever, like you could have a 3,000 YouTube subscribers in like, I don't know, a month probably. It's not that hard to grow on YouTube,
yeah,
really. The tricks are pretty simple, but it's a matter of like the space is pretty saturated, so you do have to do the titling and the thumbnails really well. Um, but like I like streaming better than making produced videos, and that is just a
yeah,
slower way to grow.
yeah. I I think I like streaming better too. Although, like, I made some short videos of like how my draft went for some playoff best ball, and I kind of enjoy doing those. Where it's just like it's the same thing as like a long form video. It doesn't like a stream. It doesn't feel inauthentic. Like I feel like a lot of those
Right.
pre-recorded videos feel inauthentic to me, where I'm just like, here's the players you need. Like that's just like not really my brand. And I've thought about doing that also, but like just doing a recap of how a draft went, where it's just like pretty short, kind of mid-length. They ended up being like 10 to 15 minutes. I kind of enjoy doing it. It's just
How did
like
those
the
do
same.
relative to your stream stuff?
Um, Not as well. I also like didn't put them out there for that long. Actually, the one that did well, to the point of like what does the customer want was here's how I had the perfect draft handed to me. Here's how I screwed it up. What was the one that people enjoyed the most, more than
Yeah.
like the here's how to play playoff best ball. Here's a draft that went well. Like those ones didn't do that well. The one where it was like I was gifted Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts and I screwed up the draft. That one's still live, by the way. That video went really well because it could have been a much better team than it ended up being.
You want to hear something disgusting?
Yeah,
I advanced 89 teams between the gauntlets and the mittens to the divisional round. And
not bad.
I advanced 0 of those 89 teams to the next
No
round.
way.
0
Like
of
not
89.
even like dead teams. Like that's so you must not have had, I'm trying to think, you must not have had much Jameer Gibbs and or Saquon. Like it just came down to like you needed those two, like at least one of those two.
I had a fair amount of Saquon, but it was all paired with Chiefs.
Oh my god. The I felt so sharp advancing teams with Hollywood Brown and DeAndre Hopkins, and like you take these guys and these guys are going to help you in round two, and now we get 2 straight weeks of zeros from DeAndre Hopkins and Hollywood Brown. Yeah, I have had a lot of the Chiefs also. Could not have gone much worse than it did. Like I think Travis Kelsey, the only Chiefs player that has actually did anything last week.
He's the
Yeah,
only one who scored double-digit points on
yeah,
underdog.
that was just kind of brutal run out there. Kareem Hunt
I
must
think
have been pretty close, but like
he might have
barely
been. I
double
think
digits if anything.
Stroud outscored Mahomes, I believe, which
Yep,
is
he did.
yeah.
I have some Stroud Mahomes lineups.
Yeah. With the point being, it's like, so this would be an example if you want to self-reflect. Like, we don't have to talk about these players specifically. Like, I could look at that and be like, dude, you played so bad. You're an idiot. You're the worst. I'm like, well, no, I think I look at these teams and I'm like, we're all pretty good. And
You use a
it just
sidekick,
is.
right? Like
It just
the
is.
sidekick is
Yeah.
like it's a very sharp tool. The sidekick kept telling you like we know these guys are going to be there in round 2. It's a much harder contest in rounds 2, round 3, etc. So like the sharpest tool out there, as far as I know, the sharpest tool available was telling you this is how you should draft the team. You should draft Hollywood Brown. You should draft DeAndre Hopkins. And all the sharps that I know drafted a lot of them also. It's just there's so much luck involved in the games we play. Yeah, I
Which
think.
is actually to a larger point, if you're like not very good at the games, or you're not like top 1%, which if you're not top 1%, you're a loser, basically, is just kind of how it works. You would actually prefer variance.
Oh yeah,
You get this a lot with like, oh dude, the payout structures are too top heavy, and pod luck stinks. Well, if you're not very good, you want the one time you run hot to be a sun run. You want the one time you run hot to be 100K, not 50K.
yeah.
You know,
Oh
and,
yeah,
and that just goes for everything. You know, just across the board. So that's
yeah.
just a little mini rant about variance there.
I also think like this year was particularly tough for playoff best ball because the people who drafted for advancing round 1, like it was Lad McConkey. Lad McConkey was the guy you needed. No, like nobody was like, oh, the Chargers are likely to make the Super Bowl. Like they're in the AFC. They have a really tough time getting to the Super Bowl. But it was people who were like, oh, well, he's going to smash Lad McConkey, and then I'll throw on a Jaden Daniels, and they just like draft the best players, the highest projected players for round 1. And it happens that those teams advance to round 2, and then in round 2, if you have Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin, you did really well again. So I feel like it was a tough year. And then people who were drafting for the Super Bowl, it's like you draft for the Bills. Well, who do you want on the Bills? Like I think a lot of us, myself included, made the mistake of overstacking Josh Allen, and it was like, oh, I think the Bills have a pretty good chance of making it to the Super Bowl, or at least to the conference championship. So I'll take Josh Allen 101. But then it's like, well, you want as many different combos as possible in the Super Bowl. And surely these guys are going to ping pong back and forth. And like somebody's going to put up points you want throughout the playoffs. And like so far, they've just done nothing outside of, I think, Josh Allen and James Cook is like the only players that have done anything for the Bills. So it's just a really tough year this
But
year.
is that so? Like, that's not a mistake. So it's just
Yeah.
the Bills had very high Super Bowl equity. They had these very high team totals in both rounds of the playoffs. It's not a mistake. It just means you didn't win. You know, it's not every
Right.
time you
Yeah.
lose
Exactly.
is it a
Exactly.
mistake. You know, it just means you don't get to win. Someone
Yeah.
else who got through their pod with 6 Bills gets to win. You just didn't win. But someone
Yeah.
who drafted the same team as you might win
In a pod where nobody took Lad McConkey or
in a
Terry
pod where no
McLaurin. Yeah.
in a pod where it was all dead teams when they got through to the next rounds, because that's going to happen. There'll be some teams that get to the Super Bowl who face no live teams at all in rounds 2 and round 3. It'll just be a total freak.
Yep.
They will have gotten through with Mahomes and Kareem Hunt and Kelsey and Barkley and then a bunch of zeros.
Yep. And
And
they're
it
going to feel
sucks
good
for
about
you.
having all those
Yeah,
players. Yep.
they're
Yeah.
going
It
to
was
feel
just
good, but it sucks for you. So when you started your YouTube channel, we actually kind of started our YouTube channels at the same time. I got laid off in June. You got laid. When did you get laid off at
I got
Sarcastic?
laid off in January. And then I didn't start it right away, which a lot of people told me like you made a big mistake because I made the whole post about being laid off, and like people were like Scott Barrett was like in my DMs being like, you need to put up your YouTube channel right now. And I had just like I wasn't ready. I wasn't sure if I was gonna like start a new YouTube channel. So I didn't do it right away. But I think I started in February maybe. And still like it grew like relatively quickly from I went on Lowell's pretty quickly, and going on Lowell's like they really helped me boost my audience a little bit. But still like I didn't have the growth that you had, where you went from like 0 to 5,000 in a month or whatever it was. It was more like, oh, cool, I'm already at 1,000. Like that was kind of surprising to me. Didn't really know what to expect, honestly, from the YouTube channel, and it was really slow growth for the most part over the course of the summer. And I think that's partially because most like most of the content I've done has been DFS, and people don't think of me as a fantasy football guy. Like people in the fantasy football space don't really know me. People in the DFS space know me, and the people in DFS space didn't really have any interest in the best ball content that I was putting out there. So it was pretty slow growth for me until I was able to start doing DFS content again. And I started doing that for the NFL season, just the showdown stuff, and that has helped with growth quite a bit. But yeah, you started pretty significantly after me, and I think passed me in YouTube subscribers in like a week. Like, it was just like, holy shit, this guy is just a rocket ship.
Well, I mean, I had some built-in advantages to start, but those are pretty short-lived, honestly. Like really, like growth for my main YouTube channel. I mean, look at this channel. This channel we're on right now has as big a guest as you can find in fantasy. Like D's from the We Do a Little Pod is 300,000 Twitter followers. He was like the third guest. Once I turn this on the video, this has 700 subscribers. Growing on YouTube when you don't have a hyper super specific niche, like if it's more general, which is kind of what the Flannelverse is. Like the Flannelverse is not one
Yeah,
thing.
right.
Very, very hard to grow. Because it's all based on kind of luck and who clicks when, and do they like
Yep.
you, do they not like you? Like it's like someone could conceivably watch a YouTube video every day from someone they have no feelings about if it's about something they're interested in.
Yeah.
But if it's not about
When you're
something
doing
you're
just
interested in particular, it's just about you.
true. Yeah, no, it's yeah, and that was, I don't know. I kind of think that I've learned over time that there is a pretty big difference in the audience for like DFS versus fantasy football, and that I think that part of the
Yes.
struggle for me is like trying to do both, and just like I haven't really grown that much as a best ball content creator or a fantasy football content creator. I do like I now it's sort of nice to hear people tell me like, "Oh, I loved your best ball content," because I didn't get a lot of that at the time. Like relative to anybody else doing best ball content, I kind of felt like I was falling behind. Like everybody else is just like crushing it, getting tons of views, and I'm like getting 400 or whatever, just like just not doing that well. So it has been good to hear that there are people who enjoyed the best ball content. I'm sure I'll keep doing it too, to some extent. I did enough of it that it was like, okay, good. Some people enjoyed it, watched the content, but I definitely didn't feel like that was what people wanted from me. And part of it is I'm admittedly not like the biggest ball knower out there. Like I've been a DFS guy, which is a totally different game than fantasy sports. I think that it's like a lot of the same skills go into winning at DFS as best ball, just like understanding the game you're playing, how to structure teams, et cetera, et cetera. I think that it's going to be a lot of people who are successful at DFS will also be successful at best ball. But at the same time, people really what they want, people who watch a lot of content, I think want ball knowledge more than anything, which is um
That's
do you
interesting.
disagree with that? Like
No,
that's my
I'm just
impression
thinking.
is because like I listen to you and Pat, and like and we did a show together all year. You guys can like rattle off the coaches for different teams, like the schemes, what you can expect from different teams. You've clearly been doing this for a long time, whereas honestly I've never like tried to get into the weeds of like knowing coaching tendencies. I know it to an extent because like you need to an extent for DFS. Like I want to know I want to know some ball to be good at DFS. But I'm clearly not on the level of like you, Pat, Gretch, like Pete, like people have been doing fantasy football content for a lot longer than I have. And honestly, to some extent, that's what I want when I watch football content, because that's like the part that I feel like is missing from my game. Whereas I think a lot of people are the same way, where it's like, well, I already know the structures. I don't need to hear your reasoning for why you structured your team this way. I just want to hear who's going to be good this year, because that's the part that I don't have time to research on my own. So I think that's part of like, I don't know what I enjoy and what I sort of lack as a content creator. And something that honestly I want to get better at this year is being a little bit more research based. And last year was kind of like I kind of was thrown into it because I didn't know I was going to get laid off in January. So it was just kind of like, I don't know. We're like, well, I guess I want to do some content. I enjoy drafting best ball teams. So I guess I'll just draft best ball teams on streams, but I didn't really put in that much research into it last year. And I think this year I'm going to make a more concerted effort to do more research and fewer streams.
More research in terms of like projecting the players or thinking about ranges of outcomes for the players.
Yep.
Huh.
Exactly.
No, you should do that on stream.
Do the research on stream. I mean, that would be kind of interesting. I could do like a team by team breakdown.
They're just like, I'm gonna do this draft and like I'm gonna check these projections. They're like RotoViz, I know like has like a module basically where you can like do your own team level projections if you want.
Cool.
That would be a good exercise. You could do like, okay, every day we start the stream, I'm going to Roto World and I'm reading the blurbs. I'm just gonna read. I'm gonna find out what's going on training camp. Like I honestly, and people would like that. They would be that. Yeah. So I don't know if people like ball knowing, but what people like when they tune into a show is for it to be language that they understand and that they feel comfortable with.
Yep.
And languages that people understand is not sim probability and heuristics and like what in like a DFS game is really important. Oh, combinatorial ownership, yada yada. Like they're not loving that. Well, maybe they like it and they find it interesting, but that almost requires like work on top of to understand and to think about. And some people like that, but like the sim stream that I do every Thursday with Brick and Nerdy is like far and away the most actionable. Like not even close.
Yeah.
Like the best information. And that is like the least watched video on my channel every week. Me and Liam just like arguing about bullshit, giving no good actionable information.
That's what people want.
It's like gets like literally twice the views. And like, don't get me wrong, like I love arguing with Liam. Like it's a good. I'm glad that I have both things, but like I think about like, oh, what do I like? Just like when I'm not even thinking about sports, like I just want to listen to a podcast. Yeah, I love to listen to like a history podcast where like I understand the language in the world. And like the further it gets away, I've been having this thought recently, the further it gets away from the current time, the harder it is to understand and to be kind of have it on in the background. But I was listening to a World War II one the other day and I was like, all right, World War II, know all the characters, know the places, know the good guys, the bad guys. Napoleonic Wars, kind of know who the bad guys are, kind of know who the good guys are. The United States is like not really involved. They're kind of on the periphery. I don't know all these cities in France. That's harder. That's harder to understand. Ancient Greece, even harder, and I think that's kind of analogous here where it's like, dude, people have their opinions about Bijan Robinson. They don't need you to tell you the frequency at which you should not take Bijan Robinson and actually take Gene T instead, because at the frequency you get to the final, Bijan's going to outscore Gene T at X percent. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. Yeah. People, it depends. I do think it depends pretty significantly on like the audience that you're trying to cultivate too. Like I kind of feel like I've got a pretty high level DFS audience now. Which I think I prefer having that kind of audience as opposed to like, I think I kind of weed out the people who are going to be like, why wouldn't you just play Jahmyr Gibbs? Like, come on, he projects like he's clearly the best. He's going to do awesome in this matchup. Like, why wouldn't you just play that guy? I think that I kind of weed out those types of thinkers to some extent with my audience, just by like, if that's what you want and you turn on my show, you're going to be like, why the hell isn't he just telling me to play Jahmyr Gibbs and Jaden Daniels or whatever? So I don't know. Like there is that, like, I think you and Pete talked about this a little bit about like doing the type of content that you want to do. And I just like, I don't think I can do that. Like totally, like, I don't want to say dumbed down content. Cause like even the stuff that you do with Liam, like it's not dumbed down. Like you're like two smart guys who know a lot of football, arguing about football. Like it's not dumbed down, but like, I feel like I would rather have an audience that wants the brick and nerdy tenor. But like you said, there's a limit to how big that audience is. I don't know. That's a constant struggle of like, how big do you want your audience to be?
That market is more willing to spend, though.
True. That's a big
thing in fantasy sports. Is there are a gazillion people who will not open their wallet, who just want their free picks or whatever.
Yep.
But really with DFS, there is a big market for no small but desirable market of people who like to spend money or who will spend money. I don't do you probably don't even do you have memberships turned on for the Flannelverse?
I don't. We've talked about this. I know you actually told me that you're not going to come on my channel until I turn on, or maybe not memberships. No, you said I need to turn on advertising on my
Monetization.
channel.
Yeah.
I have not turned on monetization. The only thing I've got is super chats right now. I want to turn on, like, I think that is probably the next step is I want to turn on memberships, but I want to offer something to my members, and I just haven't figured out what I want to offer to my members. So once I get that figured out, I think that at least that part I will turn on, and maybe I'll turn on ads at some point too.
I mean, Discord is an easy one. I mean, that's all mine is. That's all. Actually,
Access to your
literally,
Discord.
this week, I'm gonna start doing one members only video or stream a week.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna take it away from what is already free. I'm just gonna add on another hour of whatever because there's more. There's always another hour in the day if you need it. I mean, that's my thing. Is like plenty of people smarter than me, plenty of people funnier than me. Not going to be that many people who want to work more than me, who want to
Yeah,
just be on camera and do shows more than me, which is like
you're like Truman Show. Like nobody's on camera
it's
more
so
than you are. It's
it's so
crazy
true.
how much you are on camera. I would get so burnt out. Like I'm kind of like, man, could I just take a break now until like going to Cancun in February? Can I just wait until after that? I'm not going to. I'm going to do like obviously some NBA content and stuff, but I don't know how you do it, like, especially after all these years that you've been doing it. I don't know how you spend so much time in front of the camera.
I mean, part of it is like that is just my like that is work for me. You know, it's like I can kind of be removed like in a way like how you could go to your job and you can kind of be I've not watched Severance, but this is what I get the concept is basically like there's an inside person, there's an outside person, and
Yeah.
you could be living your own interior life. Like I can be living my own interior life while streaming battle royales or whatever in a way that most people probably can't. um and the other thing is I know, and this should be something that you know too, is that engagement on social media and on YouTube and in podcasting and stuff, it actually does reward. Like there literally is like a dollar value for your time. And the more time you bank, the more you get out of it because the algorithm likes all that. And people like that. Like, my
Yep.
God. I mean, how great is it? Like, I don't know if you're a big Ben Gretsch, Sean Siegel guy, which I am, and I refresh my podcast feed, and there's just like 4 hours of Sean and Ben
Yeah.
drafting together. I'm not going to listen to every word. I'm not going to castigate them when
Yeah.
they're wrong. I'm not going to be locked in, but it's just going to be nice. I'm just going to have it on. I'm going to listen to the whole thing. It's going to be great. It's
Yeah.
going to be the
Always
best.
entertaining. Yeah.
Um, like they're so, and also, man, all these you want to do it. No one wants to work in January and February. It's been a long season.
Good
Everyone's
point.
tired. Everyone's burnt out. I'm like, dude, if Pete doesn't go live for 2 weeks, just for whatever reason,
You're taking advantage.
I'm going live every day. And that's not even anything. Pete has gotten to a point where
Yeah.
he doesn't have to do that. Or um I don't know, the fantasy flock, Mason Dodd.
Yeah.
He's taking a vacation right now. I mean, he's the most watched fantasy football channel, I guess, outside of the Ballers. Like,
Right.
if you are a marginal content creator right now, I mean, you got to be filling that void, brother. Like that is your
I know.
duty.
Yeah. I should be filling the void more than I am not taking any kind of rest right now. I mean, I told you I'm starting an NBA show on my channel later this week, so I'm not completely taking it off. But it has been nice, like a couple days a week, not doing any kind of streaming has been kind of life giving for me the past couple weeks with NFL winding
Well,
down a little bit.
I'm not telling you to murder your mental health.
Yeah,
Don't do that. It's just funny to me because you're kind of just like a soft spoken, quiet guy, So like you and I are very different
yeah,
in that way. Like you like actually probably our audiences, which is kind of funny, because they're both relatively small compared to like what exists out there, there's actually probably not a ton of overlap. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like probably the
that
people who really like you are like, that fucking Davis guy, man. I don't know.
yeah, and vice versa. Like Neil's so boring. Why would I want to watch Neil? He doesn't. He's not funny. He's not that entertaining. Yeah, no, we probably do have fairly different audiences. But I will say, like, there are people who like know me and like have told me, like multiple people. I don't know, handful at least have told me that the Friday show that we did, me, you, and Pat for 4 for 4 was like their favorite show every week. So like you know, maybe now our audience have converged a little bit more because we've been doing a show together. But yeah, it is and it comes back to like I was talking about, like I feel like people wanted DFS content from me more so than fantasy
Yeah.
football content for me, because I've never really done fantasy football content, whereas you like kind of come, I know you've been doing DFS content for forever also, but I feel like you also have done an equal amount of just general fantasy football
People are more
content.
into me for fantasy football than for DFS, I think.
Yeah. So it's a little bit of different audiences in that way too, just like the type of content that we have done and that people want from us. But yeah, it is kind of funny that we probably don't have that much overlap. And I got to say, whenever I go on Pete streams, like I've noticed, I'm like his worst guest in terms of like getting people to watch his shows. Like his audience clearly does not love when I come on shows, which is it is kind of funny, the disconnect there. Whereas like and like if I do a show on my channel with well-known DFS guys, a lot more people want to watch that than like popular fantasy football guys. It's yeah, it's sort of surprising how different the audience is sometimes.
Yeah. I wouldn't have thought about that. I guess so you're like not part of the ship chasing extended universe, you know? Like
Right.
you which is like that is what Pete's audience wants, is
Yeah.
the ship
And
chasing
I
extended
enjoy that.
universe.
Like I love the ship chasing extended. I mean, here,
A
drinking out
chaser.
of ship. Yeah, ship chaser.
A
I'm
chaser.
a ship chaser,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm not part of the like the content like tree there. So people know that tree well, and it's kind of what they want.
So what is your what is your goal with your, let's just call it your professional life
Yeah,
as a content creator? What are your ideas? What is your, let's hammer some out. Let's get some
yeah.
smart, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time-based goals
Oh no, you
for
sound like my
Neil.
wife right now. You sound exactly like my wife. She wants to have this conversation too. What are you trying to do here, Neil? I wish I could tell you exactly what the goals are. I think I'm figuring it out based on what my audience wants from me. Honestly, I wouldn't be mad if 5 years from now I'm still doing content and it's not at all related to fantasy sports. Like
Hmm.
I enjoy doing content to some extent. I'm not sure. I mean, I love doing game based content. So don't get me wrong. Like if I'm still doing fantasy sports content in 5 years, that's cool. But like I enjoy doing like thoughtful content to some extent, and it's something that I want to continue to get better at. I would say as far as like goals for this year, I want to get better at producing my own content, like just like because I honestly I'm not good at all right now. I don't do any like editing of my stuff. I feel like I could enjoy doing a little bit more creative stuff with my content, like um within the editing of my stuff, which I don't know how do you have much experience with editing your own stuff, or have you always just hired an editor?
No, Neil, when I was in high school, I like learned a lot of video editing. Like I know Adobe After Effects and Premiere Pro. Like I was not really good at it, but I was certainly above average at it. I could do it. The thing is it's like the time value, the money value of time. And
Yeah,
I'm like, it actually probably would be better for me to just stream for another 2 hours than like learn how to make this video. And weirdly, it's definitely harder to grow streaming than it is to do produce videos, but it's very hard to get off the ground with the produced videos. Like the from 0 to
sure.
1,000 subscribers on a produced thing. It's like I was talking about this with Pete last week. Like, oh, I want to do dynasty stuff. Should I do produced videos for this? Should I start a second channel? And ultimately, I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna stream more. I'm just gonna do this stuff as streams, and they'll get some less views, but it'll keep my content in people's feeds. Maybe I'll
Yeah,
pick some new people up. Maybe I'll onboard some new people to best ball. Like there are lots of ways that that can go, I think.
yeah.
But For you, I actually think, especially because you didn't always do like the 4 or 5 hour streams and stuff that I was doing in the summer, I think actually you'd probably be pretty good at that, and you would find some more. You'd probably find more joy out of that. Actually, I think.
Of doing production or out of
Yeah.
long
Of
streams.
like
Yeah,
just like learning how to edit and like, oh, I learned this new editing thing and I learned this new key in After Effects. Like I learned that I didn't know how to do this, and I watched this YouTube video this from this famous guy, and I figured that out. Like it's
yeah.
kind of like DFS where it's like piecing the parts together to get to a better finished product.
I think I would too. Like I think I'm kind of a creative at heart to some extent, so I think that has appealed to me from that standpoint. Although like clearly like Pete is a creative at heart, and he's like I hated doing it. I just hired producers. I prefer it so much more. So maybe I'll find that it's just too boring for me also. But I want to at least like give it a try. Try to do a little bit more production on that stuff. I did do some of those super long streams, and they just man, they get when you're forced to do too many, it gets to be a bit much. I know you are thinking about streaming all 150 big boards, so you've
Oh,
probably got some of those long
I'm
streams coming
I'm
up.
doing that. I'm doing
Are
that.
you?
Yeah, I'm gonna do that. Yeah, because it's like I think about this like, okay, the content I like. I mean, I don't care about the lives of these creators. I just want them to be available when I want them to be available, you know? Like
Yeah,
I just want to be able to pick up my phone and there's a new Sam Sulek video, and instead of being 25 minutes long, it's 3 hours long. And I don't care about his subjective personal experience doing it really. I just
right.
want to be entertained. I just want the content. And yeah, so I just think doing that particularly while and the point on top of that is a narrow game. It's just not going to be like Spags will do it, Pete will do it, some other people will stream big boards, but they're not going to be live every day. You're not going to.
No,
It's not going to be Friday 3 p.m. I'm trying to kill the last hour at work. Who's on YouTube? It's going to be one guy streaming big boards Friday 3 p.m. Eastern on YouTube probably, and I'm looking to be that guy. I think.
the one tough thing there is how many people are doing best ball. Like at that time, like it's only going to be the sickos are the only people going
Only
to
the
be watching your
sickos,
streams at that point.
but
So I mean,
sickos
maybe you'll bring in some new sickos because you come from fantasy football. Maybe there are some who have not really been onboarded fully yet.
sickos are my people though, Neil. The same way that the
Yeah,
DFS hardos are your people. The people who are they're the I like to think of myself as the gem mining guy, from the Never Stop Gambling meme.
I
I'm
saw that
I'm
on your you posted today your BR stuff.
I'm that guy, man. But I'm never gonna actually someone in Pete's Discord did a very funny edit of it of a guy just mining directly to the Earth's core. And that might be
Yeah,
that might be me too. But anyone else who finds themselves in that meme, those are my people, which I think I mean, actually, honestly, I would say you probably have found the people. You just need to find a way to monetize those people. Basically, really is.
yeah. I
I
mean
can't believe
that.
I can't believe you started a channel, got monetized, didn't turn it on. I had memberships and graphics and all that stuff ready to go like the week I started my
Oh yeah.
channel.
Well, I heard you say that you like talked with Joe Hokla about how to do it and stuff, and like I had no idea what I was doing. It was just like I guess I'll throw this up here and then I'll figure it out. I think my first few videos didn't even have a thumbnail. It was just like, all right, I guess I'll start
Yeah.
streaming now. Yeah, I did not take the time to learn how to do it. It was just kind of like, well, I need to start doing something. Like I'm kind of bored. I need to start. And then of course I made the I'm gonna do 150 best ball mania team. So I was like, all right, I better get going on this. Um, yeah, no, I was you did it the right way. I wish that I had taken a little bit more time at the
Well,
start.
the more I get to know you, the more funny I think that is because you are like an analytical guy. You are a guy who enjoys learning how things work, you
True.
know?
I have like I enjoy the YouTube game to be honest. Even though I'm not like
That's
totally
exactly.
great at it yet, I do actually enjoy the like learning about like, oh, I just like this one trick and I'll like add a lot more subscribers and that kind of stuff is like that's kind of cool to learn that stuff. So I'm also like deceptively lazy. So I think that is part of it. Like
Oh, me
you
too.
you
Me too.
yeah. So it's um I work hard to be like more efficient so that I can work less hard later. is like my style of working hard is like, how can I build up a template here that's going to work? Like you'll see my thumbnails, it's like it's the same thumbnail every time where I just put in different players, that kind of stuff. So I think that was part of it, was just probably laziness about figuring out. I'm also a very hands-on learner, so just like, all right, I'm going to figure out how to do this before I start is just not really my way of doing things. It's like, all right, let's just like throw it up there, see if this works. Nope. All right, well, what can I do? And then I'll start researching what could I have done better here. So I think that is part of it also. Yeah, I wish I had taken a little bit more time at the start. And I honestly, but at the same time, I wish I had just started earlier when like I had a lot of like people who would have followed me from like who knew me from Stochastic, like right when the Iron's hot, like,
Yep.
oh, I'll follow you. I'll go to your new channel. And I kind of missed the boat a little bit on that.
I did that too. I didn't start mine for like 3 weeks after I got let go because
Yeah.
I was kind of hoping I'd get hired full time somewhere else. And now I had interviewed for a full time position and they ended up just like not hiring anyone for the position. And ultimately, by the time I was like waiting to hear back from them, I was like, I don't really think I want this. I think I like doing this better. Pay's not as good.
Yeah.
Uh, but
But it
it's
could
more
be the
fun,
upside of the pay. Like 2 years from now, you could be making way more money
way more
doing
money.
this than you would be at a full-time job. Yeah. I think you and I have talked about that a little bit. The like, because I had also some conversations about potentially going full-time various places, and they same thing. Ultimately, couldn't hire somebody full-time, and it was kind of a relief for me because it was like I kind of enjoyed just like setting my own schedule, doing my own thing. Which on, I mean, during NFL season, that was not really the case at all because I was doing so much contract work that I sort of had deadlines all the time. But still, like I get to kind of pick and choose what I want to do, and I do enjoy it, even if it is going to be less money. And I enjoy like the not knowing exactly what the money is going to be. Like even if like maybe there isn't mega upside in doing my own channel, but I enjoy the unknown to some extent, like the gamble of it. I guess we're gamblers to some extent. There's a gamble in doing this on your own too that I think is just kind of fun.
Honestly, yeah, and that just shows how sick we are because I kind of like that too. Of like, who knows? Who knows how many people are signing up for the affiliate link this month? Maybe none. We're
Yep.
going we're getting groceries from Aldi tonight, which is very funny. Um all right, we'll cut this short at an out. Well, short actually. Normally we go 55 minutes. So we went over, Neil.
Oh
Tell
shit.
people
Sorry.
I'm just kidding. Tell people about the YouTube channel that all of this stuff that we are discussing is going to be applied to in 2025.
Yep. So I my YouTube channel is called The Flannelverse. It's because I wear a lot of flannels. I primarily have been doing DFS content recently. I enjoy doing the like how-to videos with new games. So if new games continue to come out, I'll do those. Also, I streamed all 150 Best Ball Mania drafts last year. If you took any of my advice, you did quite poorly last year. But I'll probably be doing some streaming again for Best Ball this year. But yeah, it's still kind of a work in progress figuring it out. But yeah, Flannelverse, I'll be doing DFS, Best Ball, and whatever other games come around. Actually, this week probably starting some pick'em content, NBA pick'em content as well. But yeah, it's all at the Flannelverse YouTube.
All right, there we go. Everyone check out the Flannelverse YouTube. Please subscribe to the TakeCast YouTube. If you're listening to this on audio, you can check us out there. Leave a rating or review. Do whatever you want to do from the bottom of your heart to make my life easier. And I'll be back with you guys all next week.